Yeah. So you mentioned like a few directions to go, like from the top, like from the level, from the governance, from the structures, or from the bottom up, which is like from the people, their skills, the capabilities, the way they interact and work, and maybe being creative. So what do you think is the best way to start when you're going into this innovation process or doing something different?
Oh, that's another big question right there. I mean, it depends on what it is that's lacking, right? Because all organizations have some level of innovation or development happening, right? So it's not like we're going from zero here to something. But so it depends on what is the current maturity, like what are the problems and obstacles and challenges in your specific organization. You first need to assess that. But typically, where you want to start is at the top. And that's because when you get the senior executives involved in the sense that they start understanding the necessity for innovation, but also what are the right ways and methods to actually do this? What is the culture that we need? What is the mindset that our people will need? Then they start becoming the right ambassadors for this, right? So both first and foremost, they start repeating messages around this that's very important, but they also start acting accordingly. And this is the most important thing, because if you have executives saying, yeah, we need innovation, but indirectly they're doing anything to kill it, then it's never going to work, regardless of how much passion you have down in the organization and among the people driving it. So, you need a certain level of maturity at the top for innovation really to thrive in any organization. But then when you have that, then of course you need to carve out the space in the organization for this to happen. And that's why it's being said that future organizations need to be ambidextrous, meaning they need to be able to use both hands equally well, something that's quite difficult for most human beings. And for organizations, this means that with one hand, the organization and the senior leadership is able to manage the existing business really well, as they should continue to do, right? But with the other hand, they're equally well at exploring the future business. So leading that perspective as a senior leader, but also in the organization, having carved out the space, the resources, the right processes, the right ways of measuring value, the right tools and approach to lead, intrapreneurship and leading innovation in the organization.
When we're thinking about the future, what they're doing right now is their core business. They're doing it well if they're a good company, right? But thinking about the future demands different capabilities, like thinking like a VC, thinking like someone who is like more creative, more open-minded. It's different. But
Mm-hmm.
could you say, like, what do you feel that right now, like we're a year and a half into the COVID crisis, do you think that there is anything that has changed in this capability? Do they feel more the need to change or not? Maybe they're more fearful and anxious and therefore they're doing less. How do you see that?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think there's probably not just one truth about this. So again, it's a little different depending on what was the existing culture and mindset, both across geographies and across specific industries and companies. But overall, I think COVID have accelerated the adoption towards digital. And digitalization has been sort of the big theme across any company when they talk about transformation and even innovation. So a lot of innovation in companies the last 10 years have been touching digitalization. The need to move maybe into a digital business model or adopting technologies or digitalization into the existing system. And for that reason, COVID have sort of helped everybody embrace that a little more. All those that were still sort of holding back and not really, do we really need this? I think they sort of tipped their toes into it, and maybe more than that, the whole foot, right? And really sort of starting to build up the confidence, basically, that we can do this. Digital, I can work with digital. I can make that work. I can have online virtual meetings that are effective, but I can also then start using all the digital tools that helps me. And maybe I can then start better imagine how, the consumer's experience and user journey is more digitalized, right? Because you're starting to immerse yourself into it, using it. So it increases people's perspective about what's possible, about what they can do, and in a way made it more comfortable for them being in the digital sphere, where before they were maybe reluctant or they felt uncomfortable and not knowing enough about it. So in that sense, I think COVID could very well have accelerated innovation across every industry. But of course, you're right that there is also a flip side of saying people have also realized, what a good work-life balance could be. Staying more at home, having more time with your families, your kids, being able to pick up your kids a little earlier, etc. And that's been, a fantastic experience for at least some. And that also means they'll come back to the company demanding that there's a better balance in this. And I think actually more long-term, that's also going to benefit innovation. Because if the companies then are able to adapt to this and say, how do we make sure that our, employees, that people are, able to thrive as well on a workplace and therefore have more energy, have better lives, eventually potentially having more passion about what they do, then definitely that's going to enhance innovation.